Hello everyone, welcome to Classic Reddit, where real humans read Reddit content. Today's Ask Reddit question is gonna be, what is something unrealistic that you often see in movies that annoys the hell out of you? If you're interested in making content where you read and respond and react to things online, you make YouTube videos that way, check out the end of this video. Get in touch with us, because that's exactly what we're doing. Today's Ask Reddit question is by Son Saitama. What is something unrealistic that you often see in movies that annoys the hell out of you? High school scenes where there are lounges in the hallway and students are free to be wherever they want to be around the building, no matter what time of day, without consequence. True that. We had literally 4 minutes between classes to get into our lockers and across the building. Nobody was sitting down during that. Smoking cigarettes or weed on a high school campus and getting caught by a teacher who then just gives an exacerbated sigh and tells them to go on to class. Hey, I'm sure that's happened. I've just never heard of it, but hey, maybe I'm sure it's happened. Opaque beverage cups and are always empty and never look right when hefted and drank from. They could at least put water in them to get the motion right, but never do. And once you start noticing this, it just ruins so many shots for you because it looks so stupid. Family breakfast scenes have always bothered me. Let's take 2 bites of a full-style 4-course breakfast someone would have spent forever making, and I'll run off to whatever we've got to do. Valid points. This response by Mem Skeptic. I am 76 years old and have been buying things in stores since I was 5. I have never ever seen someone toss money on a counter and say keep the change, and then dash out with the purchase. I work in a liquor store. Customers do this once a week or so. Half the time, I chase them outside because it's not enough money to cover their purchase. Omniscient bad guys. I know you have to move plot forward, but dude is trying to hide in Europe and somehow the villain is always where the hero wants to go before they get there. I mean, Europe is pretty damn big. I can't imagine getting totally lost there would be all that difficult. And then they suddenly stop being omniscient at the end of the movie, letting the protagonist save the day. You know, they are omniscient because they sound British. That's what I learned from movies. Brits are all fancy and can read minds. People living in these gigantic New York or Los Angeles apartments while working jobs that realistically could never pay for such a nice place. Yeah, and if they do have a job that could afford those places, then they would have any time to get involved in what's happening in the plot? Nope. Ted and Marshall having a 2-bedroom Manhattan apartment. He's at his first job after uni, and he's still in law school. People getting knocked out cold for an hour, then waking up and going about their day like nothing's happened. I once got knocked out like 2 minutes and ended up sick for a month. What is something unrealistic that you often see in movies that annoys the hell out of you? Yeah, they use a knockout like a human pause button. So many goons would have some very serious brain damage in reality. I was knocked out for 5 minutes, and I spent 3 weeks in an induced coma and have permanent brain damage from it, though thankfully mild enough to be inconvenient rather than debilitating. Head injuries are not to be trifled with. If someone is unconscious for an hour with no treatment, there's a good chance they're not waking up. I read somewhere once that if a person gets knocked out and doesn't wake up inside of about 30 seconds, they're going to have, at best, significant brain trauma issues. Ever since then, I catch myself counting the seconds when I see someone get knocked out in a movie and try and figure out how messed up they're gonna be. In the show Smallville, Lana or Chloe would get knocked out long enough for Clark to do his Superman stuff every week for like 8 or 9 years. I can't imagine what their brains would be like in real life. Casually strolling away from a massive explosion. You really need to watch The Other Guys then. The Other Guys, 1080p, explosion scene. Huh. Everything is always so dark, and no one ever bothers to turn the lights on. Even when they do, it's like a 10-watt bulb in a warehouse that only illuminates 2 feet around it. I always see the opposite, where someone turns out the lights to go to sleep, but is still somehow bright enough in the room to see every detail. Just once, film a movie with real lighting and no makeup. Oh, have you ever been watching a movie and you can make out all the dialogue being spoken, even when they're in a noisy place like a crowded bar or open-top convertible? Just once, make a movie where you can't see or hear anything clearly. The actors don't look good, the dialogue is unscripted, and for sake, stop telling us a made-up plot with a beginning, middle, and an end. Totally unrealistic. At that point, just walk into a restaurant and film a random table across the room. Hell, don't even film it. Just go there. F that. We all know what restaurants look like. You can imagine it in your head, and it'll be a million times better. Damn. Like eating sometimes. Ooh, a strong post by Horrible Harry. Watch Barry Lyndon by Stanley Rick, if you haven't already. It was shot using as much natural light as possible, and it is beautiful. It just has full costumes and makeup, but it's a period piece, so those are pretty necessary. I think there's only like 1 or 2 scenes that use artificial light, though, and that was only out of necessity. They had to use triple wick candles for all the interior scenes with little or no daylight, along with lenses designed for NASA by Zeiss, specifically for super low light conditions. And they had to push process the film itself to get as much detail as they could out of it, while still maintaining the image clarity. The steps they went through to use natural light is pretty insane, but that's Kubrick for you. The podcast Movie Crush by Chuck Bryant also has some good episode about it, and it's fascinating. AKA every CW show. I like most of the shows on the CW, but half the time I can't even see the actors' faces. My wife and I call that the 2-scene warning, ever since we saw Walk to Remember many years ago. If you aren't the sole lead and openly acknowledge your illness, the clock is ticking. If you cough blood and weren't in a fight, same. The disregard for basic physics. Gravity. Oh no, George Clooney. You're holding onto a rope in space, and for some reason it's almost like you're being pulled back to Earth by gravity, even though you're obviously in orbit. I'll have to let you go die because I can't hold you up against the nothing that's pulling you. Also, yeah, I'm just gonna jump from the ISS to a little tiny Russian space lab because, I can see it from where I am and I can definitely give myself enough force to get there. I laughed my ass off at that scene because if he let go, he wouldn't fly off to oblivion. He would just float there awkwardly. It would have made more sense if they were spinning. Then his inertia might have carried him off. What would change if he was spinning? Pretty sure a human body cannot receive enough force to deorbit without a rocket engine. Did you link the scene? If you were spinning in orbit on a tether, your inertia would carry you out in a straight line, but the tether keeps you in a circular motion. If you let go at any time in a zero-gravity environment, you will go flying in that direction. The Earth's gravity won't be enough to bring you back from that much energy being expended in the opposite direction. Never mind the orbital mechanics. If you've just had a crash with stuff going way faster than you, it simply will not catch up with you after another lap. Also, you don't start freezing to death after a few seconds in a capsule without power. Cooling would need to be stuck at max for that. Cooling fails, you're gonna start cooking. I got so pissed watching Gravity because the physics were so bad. I forever cannot ever watch that movie again. It's pretty though. Like Clooney jetpacking all over the place at crazy speeds and turning on a dime, inertia is a thing. Did you watch the Brad Pitt sci-fi movie where he catapults himself to his ship by letting go of a spinning dish or something. Then he uses a metal plate as a shield while flying through an asteroid belt, which doesn't affect his trajectory at all. Shield. Oh god. How many Captain America movies have there been where he throws a shield at someone? It either knocks them out cold or slices them in half, but then he drops it and it goes skittering away down the road, to be snatched up barehanded by the edge by some other character on a motorcycle. I love the part in Civil War where Spider-Man says, "That thing doesn't obey the law of physics at all," in a really pissed off voice about Captain America's shield. Maybe he had hidden rockets on the side of his car so he could accelerate in different directions more easily. And so he could subject himself to like 20 Gs. You know, I'm a huge sucker for any space and... This person's username is 1-800-hentai-porn. I'm a huge sucker for any space and science-related movie, and I almost always enjoy them, regardless of whatever ridiculous plot they have. Sunshine, The Core, Armageddon, I love them for their absurdity. I hate Gravity. I hated how unrealistic it was. I hated the plot, and I hated the characters. But most of all, I absolutely loathed the dialogue. I just could not stand it. It didn't even qualify as terrible. It was just repulsive. The only movie I've so thoroughly, truly despised, worse than this one, was Ghost Rider, Spirit of Vengeance. F Gravity. No, I agree 100%. I love science and space movies, and Gravity was terra-bad. The Martian, however, I adored. I was gonna whine about how when a pinhole appears in a pressurized aircraft, everyone and thing on board flies toward it. It's like a star has imploded, when really the masks would just drop down and you'd pop your ears. But I suppose you covered a lot of ground here. And it's not even the kind of physics you need to study to poke holes in. It's shit you intuitively know if you think about it for 10 seconds. Not a movie, but fighting Bowser in Super Mario 64 threw me for a loop. You have to sneak up behind him, grab his tail, swing him around in a circle, and finally throw him at one of several mines that is conveniently planted at the edge of the battlefield. It wouldn't be so hard, except Bowser has no idea of how centrifugal force works. When you let go of Bowser, instead of him flying in the direction he was going as you let him go, he flies off at a 90-degree angle, directly away from Mario. What the heck? I guess once you figure out that it makes no sense, it actually makes sense. Because it is admittedly easier to aim him towards a mine when you can just line him up visually. Alright everybody, thanks for watching. If you want to make this kind of content, please reach out to us. Go to our About page on this YouTube channel and click Contact Us. Do a CAPTCHA so you can get an email address. Send us an email and we want to set up a Zoom call with you talking about running YouTube channels by using these browsing softwares that show you stuff to read that you're interested in, and you can pick and then you just read it. And there's something almost magical about you reading stuff online out loud with your real voice versus just talking or just reading it in your head. It's like if you read something 3 times in your head, maybe you learn as much as if you read it out loud, passionately. It's really a remarkable thing. Try it out. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you next time. Ciao!